The orphanage stood on a hill, overlooking the town, like a forgotten fortress. Its walls, weathered by time, held stories of countless children who had passed through its doors. The building, with its imposing structure, seemed to guard the secrets of those who lived within. Inside, a storm brewed in the heart of a boy named Tails. The storm was not of the weather, but of emotions, thoughts, and a sense of isolation that grew stronger each day. The dark clouds outside mirrored the turmoil within him. He wasn't like the others. While the other children found solace in each other's company, Tails found himself drifting further away. His differences were not just in appearance, but in the way he perceived the world around him. Laughter and games held no sway over him. The joy that others found in simple pleasures seemed alien to him. He watched from a distance, feeling like an outsider in a world that should have been his own.
I was a watcher, an observer. I saw things others didn't. The way the wind rustled the leaves, the way shadows danced in the corners, the fleeting expressions on faces that told stories words never could.
His eyes, windows into a mind far older than his years, saw the cracks in the caregivers' smiles. He noticed the fatigue in their eyes, the forced cheerfulness in their voices. He understood that their kindness was often a mask for their own struggles. He heard the whispers of loneliness that echoed in the halls at night. The orphanage, despite its bustling activity during the day, became a place of solitude and silence as the sun set. The creaking floors and distant murmurs became his nightly companions, and he felt a growing darkness within himself, a seed of something cold and calculating. This darkness was not born out of malice, but from a deep sense of understanding and awareness that set him apart from his peers.
I found solace in the company of two children, Jenny, a girl with eyes as bright as the sun, whose laughter could light up the darkest corners of the orphanage, and Mark, a boy whose loyalty knew no bounds. Mark was the kind of friend who would stand by you no matter the circumstances, his unwavering support a rare gem in the harsh world of the orphanage.
They were drawn to Tails' quiet intensity, his air of mystery. There was something about him that intrigued them, a depth that they couldn't quite understand but felt compelled to explore. They confided in him their dreams, their fears, their hopes for a future beyond the orphanage walls. In Tails they found a confidant, someone who listened without judgment, unaware that they were feeding a hunger far more sinister than they could comprehend. Tails absorbed their stories, their emotions, using them to fuel his own understanding of human nature. Tails listened patiently, his mind working, analyzing, plotting. He saw patterns in their behaviors, understood their weaknesses and strengths. This knowledge gave him a sense of power, a feeling of control that he had never experienced before. These weren't just his friends, they were his first subjects, his introduction to the intoxicating power of control. In the garden of the orphanage, amidst the laughter and games, a shadow grew, nurtured by the secrets and dreams of those around him. The orphanage was Tails' first laboratory, a place to study human behavior, to experiment with emotions. He observed everything, every interaction, every glance, every unspoken word, the way Jenny craved approval. She would do anything for a kind word, a nod of recognition. How Mark yearned for acceptance. He wanted to belong, to be part of something bigger than himself. Tails meticulously filed these observations away, each one a treasure to be exploited later. He saw potential in their vulnerabilities. He knew how to turn their desires into his tools, their weaknesses into his strengths.
I discovered I possessed a unique gift, the ability to mold myself into whatever someone needed me to be. It was like a chameleon, changing colors to blend in. I could be a confidant, a protector, a manipulator. Each role was a mask I wore with ease. A confidant, a protector, a manipulator. I could switch between these roles effortlessly, depending on what the situation demanded.
To Jenny, he was a shoulder to cry on, offering words of comfort and understanding. He knew exactly what to say to make her feel better, yet more dependent on him. He fueled her insecurities, whispering doubts about her self-worth. He made her question her abilities, her decisions, whispering doubts about her self-worth, making her dependent on his validation. She needed his approval to feel good about herself, making her dependent on his validation. She thrived on his praise, and without it, she felt lost. With Mark, he played the role of the loyal brother, encouraging his protective instincts. He made Mark feel like he was the guardian of their little group, subtly turning him against anyone who posed a threat to their little group. He sowed seeds of distrust, making Mark wary of outsiders.
I thrived on this power, the ease with which I could pull the strings of their emotions. It was intoxicating, knowing I could control how they felt. the ease with which I could pull the strings of their emotions. It was a game to me, a game I was winning. Every move was calculated, every word was deliberate. It was a game to me, a game I was winning. I reveled in the power I held over them, the way I could manipulate their feelings.
With every passing day, the darkness within him grew stronger, fueled by his manipulations. He became more adept at reading people, at understanding their deepest fears and desires, his heart hardening, turning to stone. The more he manipulated, the less he felt. Emotions became tools, people became pawns in his game. He stood alone, surveying his kingdom. The cricket field was his domain, and he was the master of it all. But with every victory, he lost a piece of his humanity. Walking away from the field, shadows lengthening, he wondered if he would ever feel anything real again. The walls had eyes, and they watched as he descended further into darkness. Tales wove a web of manipulation so subtle, so insidious, that neither Jenny nor Mark suspected a thing. He planted seeds of doubt, nurtured their insecurities, turned them against each other, all the while maintaining his facade of the perfect friend, the concerned observer.
I don't know why, but I feel like everyone is against me now.
It's strange. I used to trust everyone, but now I can't shake this feeling of suspicion.
He thrived on the drama he created, the chaos he orchestrated. Jenny, once so full of life, became withdrawn, her laughter replaced with nervous glances. Mark, always the protector, grew suspicious of everyone, his temper flaring at the slightest provocation.
I watched it all unfold, a satisfied smirk playing on my lips. I had created a world where I held all the power, where my friends were nothing more than puppets dancing to my tune.
And he, the puppet master, reveled in their despair. Tale's mind became a breeding ground for twisted ideologies. He devoured books on philosophy and psychology, not to understand the human condition, but to exploit it. He fixated on Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch,
The superior being, unbound by conventional morality.
Tales saw himself as this Übermensch. And those around him? Merely pawns in his game of domination. He justified his manipulations as experiments, tests of human weakness.
I'm helping Jenny and Mark, forcing them to confront their flaws, to become stronger.
But deep down, a darker truth festered. Tales didn't want to help his friends. He wanted to break them, to shatter their spirits and mold them in his own image. He craved absolute control, and he wouldn't rest until he achieved it. Tale's ultimate plan was as twisted as his mind. He had always been a master manipulator, weaving intricate webs of deceit and control. His latest scheme, however, was his most ambitious yet. He would orchestrate a final test, a grand experiment to see how far he could push Jenny and Mark. This wasn't just about winning a game, it was about breaking spirits and testing loyalties. Tales wanted to see how much they would sacrifice for his approval, how far they would go to earn his favor. He thrived on their desperation, their need to be seen and valued by him. He began by fabricating stories, lies carefully crafted to pit his friends against each other. He knew their weaknesses, their insecurities, and he exploited them with surgical precision. Jenny and Mark had always been close, their bond forged through years of shared experiences and mutual respect, but Tales saw this as an opportunity, a chance to turn their friendship into a battleground. He whispered in Jenny's ear, planting seeds of doubt and mistrust. "Mark has betrayed your trust," he said, his voice dripping with false concern. "He sees you as weak and vulnerable."
Jenny, Mark has betrayed your trust. He sees you as weak and vulnerable. He sees you as weak and vulnerable. He doesn't respect you, Jenny. He's been talking behind your back, spreading lies.
Then, he fed Mark's anger. He told Mark that Jenny had been spreading rumors behind his back, that she had been undermining him at every turn. "Jenny has been talking behind your back," he said, his voice a venomous whisper. "She's been spreading lies, trying to turn everyone against you."
Mark, Jenny has been talking behind your back. She's been spreading lies.
The seeds of doubt he had planted years ago blossomed into full-blown paranoia. Jenny and Mark, once inseparable, now viewed each other with suspicion and hostility. Jenny, her spirit already broken by Tale's constant manipulations, withdrew further into herself. She felt isolated, betrayed, and utterly alone. Mark, fueled by a potent cocktail of loyalty and rage, confronted their friends, demanding explanations. Accusations flew, friendships fractured. The team, once a cohesive unit, was now a collection of individuals, each looking out for themselves. And through it all, Tales watched with cold detachment. He reveled in the chaos he had created, the destruction of bonds that had once seemed unbreakable. His heart, a barren wasteland incapable of empathy or remorse, felt nothing for the pain he had caused. To him, this was just another game, another test of his power and influence. He had created the storm, and he would watch it consume everything in its path. The team, the friendships, the trust, all of it would be swept away in the torrent of his machinations. And as the storm raged on, Tails stood at the center, untouched and unmoved, a puppet master reveling in the chaos he had unleashed.